This is how we welcome you back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second plenary for today, the second day of the Ghana CEO Summit, the 4th edition. And this is by far the largest gathering of CEOs on the second day. Please give yourselves a round of applause. It has never happened like this before. Wow. The turnout is really impressive, and I trust that your time here will be worth the while. Ladies and gentlemen, just gone by was a very important discussion in the boardroom, corporate governance and ethics. It was preceded by a very solid foundation on future fit leadership by Reverend Celia Appiah Collins. You don't want to miss that. Please, if you missed, just go back to Facebook. You have the message played to you. Right now, we're going to delve into radically transforming your business. How do we go about such costly ventures that our companies need to take to scale up? There is a way to do this without breaking an arm and a leg. Ladies and gentlemen, the fundraising process and the traps to avoid. Delivering this foundation and expert insight is the CEO of GFA Consulting. Would you please make welcome Madame Carol Ramela.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I heard I only have 15 to 20 minutes, right? So I'm going to go very fast, and we're going to talk about the issue of fundraising and what you need to do as businesses to attract money that you need to expand your businesses. So if you want to know more about GFA Consulting, please consult my company website, gfa-consulting.com. And let's start directly with the challenges that many businesses face when they need to access funding. So I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Financial resources are extremely complicated to get, especially in Ghana now. But don't worry, it's the same in West Africa, Central Africa, everywhere. The cost of resources, of financial resources, is way larger than what you could find in other countries. Here in dollars, we're talking about what, between 11 and 13% on the dollar. If you're lucky in Cote d'Ivoire, you have it at 8%. Nigeria will be more like 19% in dollars. Cameroon, same thing, 12%, same thing like as South Africa. So it's difficult when you have already challenging environments in your own country to get enough cash flows to pay back loans at 11, 12, 13% and still make a profit. Smaller businesses are perceived as riskier than larger firms, even though it's not necessarily the case, right? Private equity funds, these institutional investors, they don't have necessarily the resources to focus on smaller deals, and I'm talking about companies that are looking to raise less than $1 million. This is small, and very few institutional investors will venture into that space. So it makes the whole process even more difficult. Not working? Okay. Banks don't necessarily know how to assess SME risk. I'm really sorry for the bankers. Okay. Banks, I'm sorry for all the banks in the room, but I believe that when it comes to assessing SME risk, there's still a lot of work to do to make it easier to distinguish between those that make sense and those that don't. Microfinance are too small. They cannot expand. They cannot fund expansion. So, you know, a company that needs $1 million, $1.5 million to expand its operation cannot find any solution with microfinance institution. And we don't have enough business angels. We have enough people with money, but they don't necessarily invest in productive companies. And I believe this is a major limit of African markets when it comes to access to funding. And finally, businesses themselves don't know how to sell their business in a proper way. So the idea of this session is really to help you, companies, whether you're large or not, by the way, understand the mindsets of those with the money and understand what you need to do to increase your chances of attracting funding. So before you engage into a fundraising process, I'm going to tell you what not to do first. Think that don't raise money just because you need it now, because the process doesn't depend on you. It's not because you're in a hurry that the investor will be. It's rather the contrary. They will take the time, and that time is usually in months. So a quick process with a private equity investor is 6 months, and that's quick. Normally, 9 to 12 months is more like the normal duration for a process. So you better plan for it. So, as I said, it's not going to be less than 3 months. It doesn't exist. If somebody tells you that, I mean, I don't know how they make it, but I've never seen anything like this. Not with private equity funds, not with banks either. So, another advice, don't leave the fundraising process to consultants. I am a consultant myself, but I believe that this is a process that you need to own. Because in the end, you are the one looking for the money, and you are the one who is supposed to be believed by investors, not the consultant. And don't forget, investors don't invest in a booklet, in a business plan, in a document. They invest in people, they invest in processes, they invest in governance, we talked about that, and then they also invest in the projects for which you want to raise funding. So you have to own it. Don't expect that you will have a quality work for nothing. This too doesn't exist. I'm going to talk about the process, and particularly the dynastic process, and you will understand that it's actually a lot of work. Any serious advisor who wants to support you with this fundraising process will have to take some time to make some effort, and it will come at a price. So you need to see that as an investment rather than a cost. Don't raise money for new ventures, and this is typical. I see that a lot in West Africa. So you've been into, I don't know, yogurt production for the past 20 years, and now you want to raise money to build a villa or an office building. For an investor, this office building venture, you're like a startup. They don't care whether you've been working for 20 years. If this is an industry that you've not developed a track record for, then they will see you as risky, and chances are you won't get any funding. So instead, raise money to finance growth. Investors like growth stories, not stories of distress, not story of I need money now because I cannot pay my suppliers or my salary, not story of I want to venture into a new industry, a new business because I'm good. They like the story of I've built that business and now I want to take that business to the next level. I'm the number one in Ghana, I want to be the number one in West Africa. I'm the number one in Accra, I want to be the number one in Ghana. These are the kind of stories that they understand. These are the only stories that they understand. So focus on expanding existing activity. Anticipate. I have clients today who still tell me, if I had listened to you at the time when you told me, listen, this process is going to take long, work on auditing your financial statement now, don't wait for the last minute to do that. It's going to make the whole process cumbersome. Unfortunately, that client didn't listen to me, and now he's paying the price. But this is really an advice I want you to get. Anticipate the whole fundraising process. What? Okay. Oh, sorry. Went too fast. All right. Use specialized advisors with the knowledge, the expertise, and the processes to take you through that journey, because it is a journey, and it is an exhausting one on top of it. So this was before. Now, when you're developing the documentation for your fundraising, don't make the mistake of believing that investors will give you money because of a nice document. Okay? If you have a fantastic business plan with great figures in it, they will see it just for what it is, a document with figures in an Excel, spreadsheet. The key is to make sure that these figures can become real, and that's the execution of the business plan. And that will not depend on the document, it will depend on the teams you have, your managements, your employees, your staff, your board. It will also depend on the process you've put in place, because if you don't have the right processes and you get money, you can waste that money, and that can take you into difficulties as surely as any crisis. So growth can also kill you if not managed properly. Don't underestimate the magnitude of the competition for money. You are not the only one. And when it comes to making a decision on where to invest, investors are very pragmatic. They're absolutely not emotional. I know there are some investors in the room. Can you raise your hand, the investors? Jerry, are you here? Anyway, they're not emotional. They will go where the risks are minimum and the returns maximum. So, and this competition for money is not only in Ghana. As a business, you're competing with with an equivalent business in Côte d'Ivoire or in Senegal. So you need to sell yourself first. Don't be overly optimistic about your assumptions. I call it the market is there syndrome. I heard that so many times. And I always ask my clients, you know, a market doesn't exist just because you have identified a need. A market exists if people in the market, customers, are ready to pay for the solution that you provide. If they are not ready to pay for it, if they don't see any difference, then you don't have a market. So instead of focusing on the market, focus on the products that will appeal to your customers. Then don't expect investors to take risks for you. What does that mean? It means that you have a project, let's say, for $5 million, and you expect somebody to put $5 million to cover to help you fund that project. They will want to make sure that you also have something to lose. So they will not necessarily fund everything. That is particularly true for banks. Banks will require that you contribute, 20, 25, 30%, it depends on the total project cost, to know that actually the interests are aligned and you will make everything to make the project successful. So therefore, own the fundraising process. It is yours. It's not the advisor's process. Understand that team systems, governance are as important as your project. That's how you're going to be judged. And develop a business case that will appeal to investors. And again, it requires a lot of work, a lot of effort. You will have to rely on your track record. You will have to rely on your expertise, on your reputation, on what you've managed to achieve so far to make a compelling business case. And then be realistic about what you can achieve and when you can achieve that. So answer all the question: how, who, what, where, when, and why. Because if you don't answer those questions, in any case, investors will ask that. They will ask you, they will challenge everything you say to see if your business case is bulletproof and if they can trust you with their money. And then put your skin in the game. That's the contribution you need to make to any project that you want to develop. And finally, when you want to negotiate with potential investors, don't be obsessed with control. And this is so West African. I need to own my own business. It's my business. I built it. I don't want to open it to anybody else. Therefore, you stay where you are. Because growing beyond your borders is extremely difficult to do it alone. It's possible, though, if you give yourself, 20, 25 years. But if you want to take that extra leap, if you want to get the expertise that you don't have internally because you cannot know it all, you will have to open your capital. You will have to share. You will have to improve and to change. Think of Liliane Bettencourt, the richest, I think she's the second richest, or she was the second richest woman on earth after the Queen of England. She just owned, I think, 10% of L'Oreal. That was enough to make her the richest person in Europe after the Queen of England. So if you own 100% of 5 million, I believe you are much less successful than somebody who earns 10% of a 100 billion company. So think it that way. Think beyond you. And if you want your business to survive it is important to have this growth mindset and to see your company as something different from you, an entity that you want to take to the next level. Ask yourself, try to count the number of Ghanaian businesses that are indigenous Ghanaian businesses of more than 50 years, because I haven't found many. Then, don't consider time as your enemy. Don't try to go quick. Quick will be, a quick process will be a bad process and will be ultimately an unsuccessful process. Don't focus on the money only. Focus on anything that could come with the money, particularly the expertise to execute your business plan successfully. It could be access to new markets. It could be getting the expertise to build robust reporting systems. It could be a stronger governance structure, a board structure. It could be anything that will make your business more successful than what it is today. Don't underestimate the legal aspects of agreements, the legal aspect of any fundraising process, and make sure you work with very knowledgeable legal advisors who will make sure your interests are protected at all times during the negotiation process. Don't try to outsmart investors. They've been doing that for years. They've seen many different kinds of entrepreneurs, many kinds of situations in many different countries. So it's easier to try to take them as partners than as people that you want to outsmart. Instead, be realistic about what you can achieve alone and what you can't achieve alone. Okay. Time is not your enemy, so take your time to find the right partner. Especially with equity investors, they tend to stay with you for 5, 6, 7 years. So it's like a marriage. You want to make sure you're going with someone you trust, someone you see can bring value to your business. So take your time for that. And use, as I said it before, use knowledgeable lawyers to assist you during the whole process. And have the right mindset. I believe in the end, it's really about that mindset, about understanding that a lot can be achieved with these investors if only you accept to share information, to be transparent, and to genuinely dedicate all your efforts to growing your own business. In the end, ultimately, you will be the winners. So these are the advices I could make. So when it comes to the process, I want to insist on the first one, the first step of the process, of the fundraising process, which is a diagnostic, which is something that we have, as GFA Consulting, have developed using a proprietary tool. And the idea of this diagnostic phase is to identify anything that will be a deal breaker for investors when you're looking for money. So we interview with you in your company's premises, and we review your systems, the quality of your teams, the governance, the credibility of the project for which you want to raise funding. And this process will be in the form of interviews that last, let's say, between 4 and 6 hours per person. Minimum 3 people, maximum 6. With this, we are in a condition to let you know what are your strengths, the elements that will make you appealing to investors, and what are the areas you need to work on. So usually what we do is that if you don't reach a rating of minimum 60% in each of the topic area and globally, we don't move on with the business plan and everything, because we don't believe we can actually raise funding for you. So I just wanted to go. I think I don't have much time left, right? Time is really on. Yeah, I know. Oh, that's such a... Yes, so I'm going to go very fast on the rest of the process because it's really classic, developing the business plan. And adjusting all the elements that investors will look at when they assess your business case, developing the financial model, making sure that it is the translation of what you describe in your business plan in terms of strategy, and then developing the investment proposal, which is the documents that investors will read, and based on which they will want to meet you as quickly as possible, then searching for the right investors for you and supporting you until the closing of the transaction. which means when money is in your account, right? So, this is it. I think I've managed the 15 minutes, yeah. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Madame Carol Ramella, CEO, GFA Consulting. Thank you very much for those nuggets. And I believe that sets the tone. That sets the tone, ladies and gentlemen, for a very insightful and robust conversation on radically transforming your business. To steer us through that, I give to you the host of the Super Morning Show on Joy FM, yours truly, Daniel Dazi.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Another round of applause, please, for our last speaker. No, I'm only standing here because it's easier to see me. I don't think you'd see me through the podium if I sat down. I'm not coming for a speech. But please, another one, please, for Madame Carol Ramella. She's the CEO of GFA Consulting. So much insight in that speech. Please, let's make some noise for her. A round of applause. And I'm going to take off from where she began to end. I'm going to take off from, they are now coming. I'm going to take off from where she ended because she named an interesting fact of about 50 companies, companies that survived over 50 years. And I tried to look for some of these interesting names. How many of us have heard of Armstrong Rubber? Armstrong Rubber. Oh, you can, okay. Cone Mills. Okay. Pacific Vegetable Oil. These were Fortune 500 companies in 1955. They don't exist today. How many of us have heard of BlackBerry? Oh, people are laughing at BlackBerry. I used to like them. Great. BlackBerry was one of the world's biggest phone manufacturers as recently as 2007. What all of these companies had in common was that when they faced challenges, they could not transform enough to surmount those challenges, and so a lot of them have crashed and fell. A lot of us have used Nokia phones today. Nokia used to move the most mobile phones in the entire world. Exactly. So this afternoon, what we are going to do is almost afternoon. What we are going to do is that we are going to look at, I can't say if your friend's beard is on fire, look for water and put it by you. So we are going to look at the biggest challenges that our panelists faced, how they are transforming to face those challenges, and then we'll advise ourselves in all of our business. That's our objective. Now, we know that we have a very diverse panel. I have someone who manufactures pipes in our homes, and I have someone who runs an international bank, all on the same panel. But you would find, I'm sure, that they are very similar in terms of process, in terms of people, in terms of function, and so we can learn a lot from them. I'll stop talking now and introduce my panelists. Mr. Asad Nazir is the CEO of Silver Star Auto Limited. A round of applause for him, please. Haysam Fakri heads Interplast Limited. Please, let's keep clapping. Mitwa Kaemba Ngambi, CEO, Airtel Tigo Ghana. Oluwole Oyeniran, Associate Director, IT Consulting at Deloitte, Nigeria. Okay. And Dr. Elikem Tamaklo is CEO, Nyaho Medical Center. And then, of course, Richard Agala, who is Divisional Head of Wholesale Banking at GT Bank. Okay, another round of applause for my panelists, please, who are looking very sharp, I must say. So I'll stop talking for a few more minutes, and I would allow my panelists to tell us in their own words what they do. If you can do that in a sentence. What do you do in terms of a company? We know most of you play key leadership roles in a company, but as a company, what do you do? Starting from Dr. Tamaklo.
Great, thank you for having us. So my name is Dr. Tamaklo, Elikem Tamaklo. I manage Nyaho Medical Center, which is a private healthcare facility in Airport and then recently at the Octagon. And we do primary and secondary care.
Good morning. My name is Mitwa Ngambi. I'm the CEO of Airtel Tigo, which is now the second largest mobile operator in this country. Airtel Tigo was born out of a merger, as you wouldn't be aware, between Airtel and Tigo back in 2017. And I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the discussion.
My name is Haitham Fakhri. I'm the CEO of Interplast. We manufacture piping. Obviously, we help you to get water into your homes and back out, as well as fiber optic and gas and probably electricity. So anything that has to do with piping, we manufacture locally.
My name is Wale Oyenira. My official title is Enterprise Platforms and Systems Integration Leader for Deloitte, and that is for West Africa. But what does that mean? It means I make technology work for my clients. And the primary focus is digital transformation, taking them into the future, essentially, by leveraging exponential technology.
Good morning. My name is Asad Nazir. I'm the CEO of Silver Star Auto, which is the exclusive distributor for Mercedes-Benz vehicles and trucks. And also recently, we acquired the distributorship for Suzuki vehicles. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Richard Agala. I'm the treasurer of Guarantee Trust Bank, a bank that specializes in providing financing solutions to commercial entities, SMEs, and even at the corporate end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agala. Another round of applause for the panelists. Please, if you want to join us, if you want to join the discussion with your questions, just type slido.com into your browser. The event code is GCS 2019. GCS, as you can see on the screen, is in small caps in 2019, the very numbers. So we'll take your questions here. At any point during the discussion, please send the questions. There will not be an official question and answer session. Your questions would influence our conversation as it goes along. So even from now, what I'll do is I'll begin by asking each of my panelists, starting from the very end, what's the biggest challenge that you have faced? Because I know you're at different stages of growth as a company, different stages of management as individuals. So what's the biggest challenge that you have faced, and how are you transforming your business to face those challenges? Can I start with Mr. Gala at the end?
So for Guarantee Trust Bank, we entered the market in 2006 at a time when there were very big players already in the industry. And so we had to define our own path and define the set of products that we thought would sell. So we began by identifying the little bits that will set us apart from the rest of the market. And just to mention a few, when you walk into traditional banks, go to their branches, you'd see tellers in cages. So one of the entry ideas we had was, how do you set yourself apart? How do you make the tellers interact more frequently and in a better environment than putting them in cages? So we came up with the concept of the open tellering structure where everybody has a face-to-face as a way of dealing with the early entry issues. The second thing that we thought would set us apart is what we call slip-free. What it means is that if you go to a banking hall to do a transaction, you don't need to fill a form. You just approach the teller and do your transaction. Everything is printed for you. You sign off and you exit. In all of this, we find that trying to identify that unique selling point or that unique proposition that will set you apart is always the most difficult part in the market, because you do not know, there are some products in the market already. You do not know whether yours will work or not. So trying to fashion that proposition and trying to focus on that towards delivery is probably the biggest challenge. And between 2006 and now, we think that we have consistently raised that bar to be able to stand firm against all the competition.
So if I'm to understand what you're saying, what you identified as the biggest challenge was setting yourself apart from competition in terms of process.
Precisely.
There are, however, some traditional security measures that every bank needs. So for instance, some would say, my teller sits behind this glass cage because there's a lot of money where they are and it needs to be more secure. How did you navigate around some of those issues?
Okay, so in managing your cash in your banking space, what we have done and what we borrowed from our parent, which was where part of the learning was coming from, with the kind of environment we had in Nigeria, which can be very hostile, very aggressive, it's fast-paced. So the design of the banking hall itself was the first part you needed to consider. How you position your vault sections where cash tellers can access cash easily without having to pile a chunk of them by their side is part of the layout that you needed to figure out so that you can have easy access to cash without necessarily exposing the bank to the risk of any external aggression. Then the support you get at the back from the people also. So there are different levels of responsibilities at the front end. The tellers you see are not alone. There are in our setup, there are about 2 different other levels that you would have. In maybe traditional banks, you may have just one level supporting. But because of the way we are structured, because we still get in touch with our customers, even at the point where they are they are being served. And so the levels are about 2 or 3 that allows you to have control over the level of cash that is being dispensed and minimizes the risk on you to be able to handle any force that may come.
So this simple change required sort of a holistic look at your process from the vault to the teller.
Precisely.
Interesting. I'm going to move to Mr. Nazir now. What was your biggest challenge and how did you look at it? Mr. Nazir just moved to the Silver Star, but he's in the automobile industry for quite a while now, so you can borrow from your experience.
That's fine. Thank you. Well, recently the biggest challenge for us was to find profit. And, in the past few years or so, the whole country has been going through a tough time. Economy is tough. Business customers are a bit more difficult to find. And the company had just gone into a bit of a drift and not returning profit. And here I'm talking about profit not being a very dirty word. Actually, profit is a very necessary word to be able to employ the best and to be able to stock up for our customers, and that provides the basic cash flow for the company. So this was our biggest challenge, but once again, it's important that the diagnosis be not just at the surface level and we go skin deep. So you don't want to be like a cowboy coming out all guns blazing and shoot. So that's very important. That once the diagnosis was complete, to be honest, it's not rocket science, really. Some of the things many of the panelists have spoken at this conference, when you apply them, you realize, look, cash flow is king. Anytime I say this, I remember my professor from university, that was our first lecture. Cash flow is everything. Yesterday we heard Momo is sovereign. So cash flow is very important. It's about your ability to pay your bills, your suppliers, your taxes, your employees. Without cash flow, it's time up. And so it's very important to make sure that you are re-engineered, you have the cash flow to service your debt, pay your LCs on time. Our bankers are here, our shareholders are here, our employees are here, and I'm very sure that somebody from GRA is here as well. So we need to pay all of these parties at the right time. And any delays can actually damage and hurt the company's standing and further profitability. Another thing that we're really homing on is communication. And by communication, I really mean like a 360-degree. Top down for sure, but also bottom up. We need to make sure that we understand what the customers are looking for, We understand the colors of cars they want, the interior configuration of their vehicles, what are their service challenges, what are their needs. I know I've spoken to a few of our guests here, and they've explained their challenges with services. So it's very important to listen to the customer. At the same time, we've got to introduce discipline and fairness into the company. It was very sad for me to find that some of our staff, if they're not on social media, they are actually running their own Uber operation. And of course, you have to take the action to discipline that and hire and fire as the need may be. You have to be frugal. The times demand that we be frugal. Yesterday, I was speaking to a top company here listed on the stock exchange in Singapore. So I thought they were the key target for an S-Class. However, I was told, as soon as I introduced myself, the gentleman said, please, we are not allowed to buy German cars by our board. Okay, this is a board directive. And that was impressive in a sense. Look, they were being very frugal. And we are trying to apply this sense of frugality. Yes, we are the distributors of Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz by itself is very classy, very expensive. It has top brand recognition. But at the same time, Silver Star as a company, we need to be frugal to make sure that our expenses are managed and we can add efficiency into our operations.
Mm. Wow, thank you. Thank you. So if I'm to ask, in terms of sales, pushing sales to increase your cash input and looking at the efficiency of your system to look at your cash outflow, which would you prioritize if you want to maximize profitability?
I know, it's a difficult one. Once again, you can't throw away the baby with the bathwater. So yes, you can't ignore one on the other. And actually, that's where the problem is, that if we are not careful with prioritizing our expenditure and we go and spend on things that do not produce a return or do not give us the necessary results, actually then we will not have the money to spend where we actually need to. So It's a very fair balance, and that's what my team and myself, we are constantly fighting with.
So it's a challenge that you deal with every day.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like that. Let me come to Mr. Oyenera now. So what would be your pick?
So as a consultant who's been in the game for about 20 years, I would say the theme around what the challenge is one word: value. And there are two angles to that. One is, as a consultant, rendering service. How do I make sure I maximize value from what I deliver and make my team do that? And from a client perspective, what does the client see as value? So I'll take from two perspectives, like I've said. Internally, you'll be surprised that from a consulting perspective, one of our biggest competitors is not other consulting firms, but Google. How? Google searches can bring out all kinds of reports, templates, analysis, things you would traditionally rely on consultants like us to prepare, produce, and deliver. Google search away. So it now becomes behoven on us to ask ourselves, how do we produce value in a world where information is free? So the question then is, beyond putting together insights, how do we demonstrate value that is tangible? And what we've had to do is go beyond analysis and reporting and giving frameworks and strategies, but to actually do what Deloitte does extremely well: put down real, tangible solutions at every opportunity, whether it's a proof of concept, whether it's a prototype, something that my clients can touch, feel, hold, use, and extract value from. So we don't do reports anymore. We actually focus on agile delivery of real solutions, no matter what the scope of engagement is. And that's a radical transformation to the way we do classical consulting. Now, from the client perspective, value is also a challenge, because they hear about Industry 4.0, exponential technologies, blockchain, AI. They're like, okay, I hear you, but what do I do? How do I navigate this journey? Because everyone is confused. I mean, back when I ran digital transformation training, I came to discover that in jurisdiction, there was a huge question as to what is digital. That fundamental question, the answer depends on who you ask. So a lot of confusion exists, not to even talk of confusion around extracting value. So our clients' challenges have to do with, I hear all these buzzwords, I see all these things happening, but how do I make it work for me? So in addressing that, again, the answer is working carefully with them to shape their journey in a way that works for them. So we have to do a lot of bespoke tailoring, so as to say, to create things that fit for our clients. But we start with education, letting them understand, using real-world examples, using an agile approach to say, look at this small part of your business. Let's do something in this small area, and you see what digital means in that context. That's helped us help our clients overcome some of these challenges as they begin to transform their business. So overall, value is the thing. How do we deliver value? How do our clients perceive value and understand what value is? And then go on that journey.
But how would you define value?
Fantastic. You see, it all boils down to the purpose. What's my client's purpose? What's my purpose? A lot have a profitability purpose. Some have a social impact purpose. Some have a purpose around creating a name and a legacy. So value is what leads to the achievement of that purpose. There has to be a straight line drawn between not just what you say, but what you do as an organization to delivering the value that you've promised, whether in your vision, whether in your mission, whether it's the overall concept of values that you carry as an organization. It's important you have clarity, and then you tie everything, your structure, your processes, your platforms, your engagement with your customers, your engagement with your employees, you connect all of it to why are we in business? What are we trying to achieve here? You measure it, you report on it, and you work continuously in an agile way to improve on it.
I'm sure that as a business, you would come across others who have a purpose that is unique or have a purpose in an industry that is new to you. Being a business that has been in existence for decades, trying to stay relevant into, I'm sure, the next few decades, how do you shape your teams to prepare for what they don't know about?
Again, I've been using the word quite a lot. The word is agility. Agility is something that you start with a grand vision in terms of your concept, but when you execute, you start small and you learn as you go. Because no matter what you're dealing with, even if it's an industry, an area that is brand new, the one common thread that all services have is humans. People are always going to be people. People are always going to have their desires, their needs, their wants, their expectations. And in this era, it's what people want that has become the most important thing because of the empowerment of digital technology. So being able to learn as we go, being able to not be afraid of failure. In fact, there's no such thing as failure. Either you succeed or you learn. Those are the two options available. But being able to learn faster and actually improve as you go has helped us to evolve and adapt very, very quickly to even brand new situations that nobody has seen before. We haven't seen, our clients hasn't seen, maybe even the world hasn't seen until it happens. So you can no longer do a 5-year strategy. You can't. Even 3 years is wishful thinking, because a year from now, the landscape will be very different from what it is today. But you can continuously learn and you can continuously adapt. And that kind of structure is what we have adopted, a flexible, dynamic, agile structure.
Learn as you go. I love that expression. Please, if you just walked in, we are discussing how to radically transform your business so that in the next 50 years, Dr. Tamaklo's business has been in existence for some 50 years. So that in the next 50 years, we'll still be talking about Yahoo and Airtel, Tigo, and Deloitte, and all of these amazing brands. If you look in your magazine, your brochure, we are on the 6th page. You can find a short blurb about what we are discussing and our guests as well. I'll step forward and please, if you are sending a question in, that's the Slido event code there. If you want to direct your question at a specific person, you can add it to the question so that I direct you to the specific questions, specific persons. I have a few here. Otherwise, I'll just take it to the person who I feel can best answer it, because we have different industries represented. All right, now I'm going to move to Mr. Hissam Fakri. So in making pipes, what have you seen? How have you changed?
Well, for me, the biggest challenge was quality. It was extremely important for us to realize that it's not because we're in Ghana, therefore we should accept things as they are. We want to manufacture things that are just as good as any other company in the world. And we do things really, really well. And that starts from the top, always from the top. Quality is quality of timekeeping. People have to come on time. Time is also when you promise a client a delivery schedule, you stick to it. You cannot deliver on time, you give them a call, you inform them. You might lose a client, however, you'll not lose respect. Quality of the product is extremely important. I mean, after a few years, we now export to around 27 countries in West and Central Africa, purely because we produce very good quality products. It's word of mouth is the best seller. Quality of the way we write our letters, quality of the way we answer emails, quality of the quotations we send, the follow-ups. Everything is geared on quality. It is extremely important for us, and we think that it's a success because we've managed to do it right. And we're not the cheapest. People appreciate when you give them a good product. People appreciate when you tell them the honest truth. And when you don't question their problems, you try to resolve it. Quality is, as far as I'm concerned, extremely important, and it starts from the top. It took me a long time to make my staff understand the little details. Problems are in the little details. I grew up in Switzerland. I'll just give you a brief example for it's quite funny, actually. I called up a taxi company a few years back, and I asked them for a cab for 8:30 a.m. And they go to me, sorry, sir, we have no taxis at 8:30. So I go, so what time do you have? They go, we have at 8:25 or 8:35. So I started to laugh. I mean, we're in Ghana. 5 minutes is not even to be considered, you know. Really, and it shows you where they are. It's little details like that that actually make you stand out. Most important is to keep the respect of your clients, of your bankers, of your suppliers. This is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Your image is extremely important. And when you do things right, profitability comes automatically. You can't fail.
Wow, I'm so excited because when you said quality, I was scared you were going to tell me about thickness of pipes and the length and what have you. But when you say respect and you talk about respect of suppliers and respect of people down your value chain, how does that translate into the pipes that come into my home?
I will call any supplier of mine today and place orders for $20, $30 million worth, and they will not ask me a question or even a bank guarantee.
Reputation.
Yes, reputation. You negotiate hard, but when it's due date, you make your payment. Amazing. No questions asked.
Amazing. Thank you very much. If you wanted to know how Interplast has been supplying pipes even in space for the past 20 or so years, you just heard. All right. They sponsor the news review on the Super Morning Show, so I hear them every morning. I have an idea what Mr. Angambi is going to talk about, but are you going to throw the obvious challenge, or that is navigating this telco space? Is there something more that we should know?
Maybe I'll do a bit of both. I think fundamentally, and I just heard all the speakers give their views, transformation is born really pretty much out of necessity. You know, it's either a necessity to grow. Yesterday we heard the CEO of Olam speak about how, you know, their revenues were growing, but not consistently growing pie. And for that reason, they employed, you know, simple things like mobility solutions. And all of a sudden, over the last 3 years, their revenues began to catapult. Or it could be a need to eliminate inefficiencies. Yesterday, His Excellency, the Vice President, talked about how they have piloted in the Ministry of Tourism now 100% digital payments. And just by doing that, they've increased their revenue fourfold. Transformation can also be born out of the need to evolve and maintain your competitive edge. And this, I think, pretty much was a story for Airtel Tigo. Now, the reason Daniel is asking me, do you want to talk about the, you know, the general challenges in the industry of ICT, is that I think some of the discussions were held for many years past around the need to consolidate within the telecommunication industry. Back in 2000, thereabout, there were 6 mobile network operators. and splitting a population of not more than 30 million. On top of that, we had internet service providers, also in their own numbers. On top of that, we also had players known as BWAs who had 4G licenses. So there was a need for some form of consolidation to take place. And this is where Airtel and Tigo came together to make that move, not necessarily having been told to or directed to by the industry. And through that, I think there have been a lot of gains that we've made, both from a market share perspective, but also through the service that we provide our customers as well. Before, Airtel and Tigo on their own couldn't provide the coverage that they do today. Connectivity solutions, when we talk fiber, for instance, separately, they had south of 2,000 kilometers of fiber. Together, they're boasting footprint that, even the government of Ghana, for instance, from an ITA perspective, also boasts of. So consolidation and transformation, though born out of necessity, also provides various benefits as well.
So consolidation is not such a scary word?
No, not at all.
The bankers. And so I have a question here that came in for you. And so I'll just ask you that. After the merger, Airtel Tigo became number 2 operator overnight. Do you envision yourself as a market leader in Ghana down the line? If yes, how and when?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there'll be any CEO who say they don't want to be number 1. But I think maybe doubling back to the greatest challenge or the greatest lesson I've learned throughout this transformation is that the end of transformation is really just the beginning, actually. And if you're a CEO who's done a victory dance at the end of a transformation, like I did, if you ask my team, they'll tell you, at the end of the transformation, they say, yeah, fantastic, October 31st, we're done it. But over the weeks, you realize, no, you've only just begun. Because all the gains that you've made in terms of your consumer market share, in terms of your network coverage, et cetera, you need to maintain those. Otherwise, the entire transformational journey that you've gone on would have been for nothing. But another interesting thing happened through our transformational journey where we were exposed to unforeseen opportunities, where by consolidating the assets between Airtel and Tigo, now we had this wealth of spectrum that nobody in the market had. And it made us think outside the box as how can we exploit the resources that we now have to deliver an even better service? I'll give you a classic example. Today, we're now rolling out technology, and we started in Accra, and we'll probably be done through the rest of the country around September, where because of the spectrum holding that we have, we're able now to deliver 4G-like speeds without necessarily having a 4G license. Now, these things can only come out of transformation and consolidation such as the ones that we had. So absolutely, I see ourselves as number 1, and I would say definitely watch this space. And if you're not on Airtel Tigo today, you might want to get on the bandwagon, because some of the speeds that we'll be delivering in terms of internet connectivity will surely be some to talk about by the end of September.
By the end of September? Sure. Okay, that's amazing. So Mr. Onyenran talked about competing with people outside of a space like Google. You would have to compete with something like WhatsApp now. So how does that work when you're looking at totally different products? I'm asking how you position yourself to compete with products like WhatsApp, which compete with traditional telcos in terms of phone calls. How do you position yourselves in that space?
I don't think any mobile network operator CEO would tell you that they compete. Because at the end of the day, what we provide is infrastructure, we provide connectivity, we provide last mile access to the end user, which typically the OTT players such as the WhatsApps, the Googles, etc., don't have. So we see them more as use cases to take advantage of the technology that we provide. At the end of the day, and we see it with the penetration of smartphones, the penetration of increased internet usage, etc., while we provide connectivity, there has to be content. And this is where we see a symbiotic relationship between ourselves and the OTT players such as the WhatsApps.
Okay. So it's not something that you see as a challenge to revenue in any way?
I would not say, and this is where I would say, again, going back to the point I made around transformation being, the end of transformation being the beginning, because we ourselves also need to continuously evolve. So if you go back 15, 20 years down the line, we were not even talking things like Airtel Tigo money or mobile money, But with time, the use cases and the requirements of our customers has also evolved over time. So today there's a use case called WhatsApp. 10 years down the line, we'll be talking about something completely different, but the fundamental core, the infrastructure, the connectivity still remains relevant and still remains required by all these other innovative solutions.
Nice. Thank you. Finally, on this line of questioning, Dr. Tamaklo, what was your biggest challenge? How did you go through it?
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, listening to all the different stories, I can draw from a lot of different examples. I think, as you rightfully said, Yahoo is actually going to be turning 50 years next year, and that brought a new challenge. how do you transition a brand or a name that really made its name based on people? And as people have changed, how do you adapt for the next 50 years? And so in coming back to Ghana, I trained in the UK as a doctor, but then coming back to Ghana, there are a number of different challenges, how to align all the different stakeholders in healthcare. Because healthcare is a very fragmented industry. If you look at the private sector and public sector, they don't speak to each other. And a patient is not going to be going to one place and saying, well, how do I take my information from one area to the next? So as an entity, Yahoo started as a group medical practice to bring different people together in one place. So the challenge was, how do you reinvent that for this generation, where most of our clients have moved further afield, they are in different parts of the country, and the real change was to become an organization that was not just in one location, but that was moving closer to the patient. And so that meant that we had to do a lot of work internally for ourselves, as in terms of what's our culture. You really can't scale if your culture is based on people and a hierarchy whereby there's an expert. And so the experts, I mean, Yahoo has over 60 contract specialists who are top of their fields in the country, but they're all located in Accra. How do you use that expertise and scale that? So we did a lot of different things. We had to focus on technology. 2015, we moved to electronic medical records. And that helped us in the first line to move the patient folder from being paper to digital. And that helped us to move patient folders and patient information to other areas. So we opened a satellite and we run on-site clinics for different corporate entities who are large enough to have a need for on-site clinics. And that helped us to actually ensure that the patient experience in terms of information was the same no matter where you go. But technology is one thing, you need the people to conform to that. So I remember the first time we implemented the electronic medical records, actually some of the top specialists who are quite elderly and were not technology nascent in terms of computers, that I had 3 resignations. Now, how do you address the change whereby it's moving so quickly? How do you transition people who are so used to being demigods in their own environment? How do you move them to embrace technology or embrace innovation, new practices? And so that was a cultural change of openness. So I guess I can talk from many areas, but I think the last thing to mention was it was not enough for us to focus on our own selves, so we had to open up. So we started the Dr. Ken Tamaklo Medical Symposium after my father. That was 3 years ago, and it was supposed to be just one event, bringing the public sector and private sector together to have a conversation about quality. Now that really triggered a conversation. I'm pleased to say we're in the 3rd year, where we are having conversations about consolidating. If you look at specialist hospitals, you have individual hospitals who are trying to do all sorts of things, but then as individuals, they can't do a lot. So there's formation of different associations happening. I guess this is probably what I'd say was some of our challenges and how we overcame those.
At the point where you saw those 3 resignations, did you ever doubt for a moment the importance of the application of the technology?
I think you can never really predict how human beings will respond, even though you follow the whole practice. And it's really changing that connection from being a top-down. I like what was said. Instead of top-down and bottom-up, we now think in terms of clusters. If you can really organize your organization in terms of small teams, such that the information flow, you can pick up on the secondary and tertiary levels of expression, not just what people are saying. It's really important for us to then find that as an opportunity.
Okay, it's nearly time for us to wrap up, so I'll take the rest of the time just to make sure that the questions have been answered. Someone was asking, to what extent is technology helping to shape the profitability of your company? Dr. Tamaklo has heavily addressed the issue of technology, so I'll skip that and I'll come to Mr. Fakri, because someone is asking, companies want to be frugal. What areas would you suggest can cut costs, and would you suggest manufacturing companies go in for cheaper power, e.g. solar energy?
It's very important to be able to save monies here and there, but you have to do it wisely. Saving for saving's sake will not help you. At the end of the day, there are certain costs you can't do without. Power definitely is extremely expensive in Ghana. I believe that Interplus is the biggest payer of electricity in Accra, from what I'm told. And I think that if we can even save 10, 20% on that, it'll be a huge extra profit for us at the end of the year. Solar is good. If you're running just purely during the day, it'll take away all your bills. I mean, you have the initial investment. We run 24/7. We only shut down 5 days a year, so obviously it'll have to be a mixture. Then you need roof space, etc. But definitely solar should be looked at. I kind of like windmill as well. Definitely cutting costs is good, but the power is an issue in Ghana, so is water. But do it wisely and don't rush into it because it might end up costing you much more.
Mr. Nazir, there's a question here, a bit suited to you and Mr. Fakri. It says, we see a lot of foreign-led businesses thriving and enduring over and above, well, if you say over and above, that can be debated, but above Ghanaian-led or owned businesses. What do you think they do differently, Mr. Nazir? What do you think multinationals and foreign-led businesses do differently?
Honestly, it's a very interesting point, but I must say that Silver Star is a Ghanaian enterprise, and our chief executives and on the board are Ghanaians. So when I look at the multinationals, I'm sometimes amazed, and I think it's the discipline and the structures and the systems that they've been able to put into place, which we in the Ghanaian environment struggle with. I didn't go to study in Switzerland like our senior brother Fakri. I studied in Presec, Legon. I've been to University of Ghana. So I understand. Look, it's difficult. Yesterday we had the panelists speak about corruption. We had our subculture in our environment. We heard our lovely presentation from a keynote speaker this morning. There are a lot of challenges we have, and part of it is culture, part of it is leadership, part of it is ethics that we must teach and we must get it right.
Okay, so it comes down to attitude then that you point to. Mr. Nazir?
I totally believe so. It's part of there are several ingredients, but attitude is certainly one of them. Leadership by example, and getting consultants to lay out structures, manuals, procedures. Is something that we just don't recognize in our environments.
Okay, Mr. Agala, this question, how do you navigate in a market environment that has some companies enjoying undue advantage by virtue of political connections and conflict of interest?
So I think the simplest answer to give is to stay true to your own dreams and your own vision. If we look at ourselves and the kind of path we have had to go through, we started off as a bank focused on institutions, trying to deal with corporates and the commercial banking space. But up to a point, we realized that to be able to compete favorably at that level, irrespective of the advantages others had, we needed very cheap funding. And so we now took a step back to go through the process of targeting the Joe Plumber, the masses, where you can build very sticky but long-term cheap funding, and that can give you the space to compete at the top end. So if you focus on your business proposition, if you stay true to it, it's worked for us in other markets. We've seen successes of it in other markets, in Liberia, in Nigeria, in the Gambia. We've seen very, very tremendous growth of the GT Bank entity. So we have faith in that process and in that proposition. If we keep true to it, you would always deliver in the long term.
And it comes back to what you started with, being unique, being indispensable.
Yes, it's always very, very important to stick to that. I think the issues about Google versus consulting, telcos versus WhatsApp, it's not different from banking and mobile money. And we're all still in that space. And the only thing you can aim at doing is partnership.
Okay.
Is how do you collaborate? How do you find that middle ground where both of you can create the space? We as GT Bank are aspiring to be a platform. We no longer want to be called a bank. We are aiming to be a platform that you can do from lifestyle generally, from starting your school through to burial, essentially. And so with that in mind, we are gradually shifting our own products, our own mentality, our own attitudes and systems in line with this kind of thinking. And we can only collaborate.
I think this goes to, I wouldn't say banking is becoming extinct, but someone said, what do you do when your industry is becoming extinct? And the question of transforming your systems and changing the way you do things may go to that. But I promise you, if we have enough time, I'll give that question to our consultants from Deloitte. Maybe it's something that I'm sure you've been asked before. However, Dr. Tamaklo, I have two for you. How did you motivate the team to follow through with the transformation? And in building a generational company, one that outlives its founder, as you're aspiring to do over the next 50 years, is getting family involved a surety? So the first one would be, how do you motivate the team?
Yeah. I think the earlier conversation on corporate governance, one of the pillars of transformation for us was on not just the corporate governance, but also the family governance. Now, I'm the second generation, and in history, my father passed away in his office with my mother, who was in the room at the same time. And she had to then take over, but he had started that succession planning process earlier. And for her, she just continued, and I have a lot of respect for my mother. But in coming back into the country, we had a board of directors that I would say were not performing. So part of the pillars of transformation was, first of all, looking at the corporate governance structures. Now that required changing different directors, etc. But for a family business, you also have to look at family governance. And the challenge was that, what examples do you have in this region of family businesses that have transitioned? So we had to, we're working with consultants from PwC in their South African office. It was an expenditure that was required because we understood that this organization had to deliver the promise and had to deliver it beyond ourselves. So I think family governance really required all the family having a conversation. And there was an acknowledgement that if this organization is to survive, we need to actually change. So even though I am the managing director, I still need to be under authority if my staff are supposed to respect me and understand that everyone is accountable for whatever they're given. So in this same light, my mother was then the chairman of the board. I was the CEO. So she made the bold decision to step down. And we have an independent chairman, and we have majority independence on our board. That's one example that all staff can see, that even the CEO has a performance appraisal and actually is accountable for the decisions that he makes. So that helped us align the organization.
So that it's beyond the individuals who are in a certain family.
And exactly, I mean, especially a family businesses outperform other corporates if they survive past 3 generations. And the reason why they do is that they have a generational outlook. They don't look in terms of quarters or years, they look in terms of generation. So the challenge is the transition. So I think that's whereby family members have a role to play in holding that succession planning for their children, who will become shareholders. And there's no difference in terms of a shareholder is not an owner, it's someone who's holding that share. And if you're not aligning interests multi-generational, then that can break businesses. And I think that we've seen many examples in our country where that transition has not occurred.
Many, many examples. And it reminds me of the words of Barack Obama. We did not inherit this land from our parents, we borrowed it from our children. And if you think generationally, that works. I'll allow Mr. Fakhri to add his voice to that for about 30 seconds. The issue of building a robust family business.
It's not easy to build a family business. It's very difficult, actually, to work with parents. They're very demanding.
Dr. Tamaklo, do you agree? Your parents are not here.
He's smiling, so he definitely agrees. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, they're putting pressure on you for you to perform better. It's very important to understand that it's not because you're family, therefore you should do a shoddy job. That should not be accepted. You're good, you stay. You're not good. At the end of the day, the family has to sit around the table and decide whether you should carry on or not. I've asked a few of my relatives to leave because they thought that being closely related, they could get away with bad work. That cannot work.
What did they say?
They had nothing to say. Their performance said it all.
Oh, if you're clapping, clap.
The performance said it. You know, at the end of the day, there's no charity at work because there are people's livelihoods that depend on you. It's not about me, it's about the staff. It's about people who work in the company. They depend on the performance of the family members. The most important thing I have in my company is my staff. This is the most important thing I have. So being my cousin or my brother does not allow you to put their lives at peril.
Even if they'll get angry with you.
Let them get angry.
Okay, finally, my last but one question, Jerry. I just need 5 more minutes. My producers do this to me all the time. Dr. Tamaklo, looking at the attitude of staff when you're transforming, how do you inspire them? How did you inspire them to take on to the new technology?
I think on this panel, I mean, I have to say in this room, I mean, everyone is going through this whole question of what's the role of technology and innovation. I'm sitting beside the CEO of Airtel Tigo. I mean, it's not a question of us in specific, it's how do we address the challenges of our nation in terms of how we align interests between investment in technology, embracing risk. If you're afraid of taking risk, you end up acting very safely and acting in what your comfort zones are. And so you have a cultural dynamic that's happening, which I think we all understand. But within Yahoo, we have to be careful when someone makes a mistake that we don't actually, we're dealing with lives. So obviously a mistake can result in a life. But how do we ensure that we don't squash people's ability to be innovative, to try new things, and to continuously improve? And so that requires all of us reflecting on our own leadership and reflect on how well we can take a group of people to a place where they can embrace risk, but have the tools by which they can actually innovate. And so it's not just about technology. I'd rather say it's about innovation and how do we embrace that. So it's
the leadership
It's
style.
a journey.
I promise that if I can get a few more seconds,
because I'm not your family member, I'll have to refuse that.
Jerry, I thought we were brothers.
No.
A round of applause, please, for our panel members. So we've been speaking on the subject of radically transforming your business. We've been speaking to captains of industry who have had to transform over the years to either look at the transition from one generation to the other or gain a larger market share in the telco space or maintain quality or compete with Google, if that's possible. And I believe you have learned a lot. If you have any more questions, try and find them and you can ask them yourself. My name is Daniel Dazi. If you have a question for me, you can send in a text to the Super Morning Show tomorrow. I'll answer. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Dazi and his amazing panelists. A round of applause for them. Thank you very much for sticking to time and not making me a family member. It now falls to our technology partners, SAP Africa, to walk us through this very amazing session. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, to set the tone for this, the SAP Central Africa Managing Director, East, West, and Lusophone Africa, Pedro Guerrero.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, the Summit, for inviting us as a strategic partner for this event. And it's wonderful to see a full house. I'm going to bring you to a short road trip. We're going to do 4 messages in 4 videos. It's going to be fast and quick, so hands up for that. Even before that, I'll ask for my colleagues just to show one of the first slides, please. Here you go. Just a bit of highlights of who is SAP. SAP is obviously a leader in the market of business software. We have quite a few numbers that we want to share. I'm probably not going to talk through them, but I want to share this with you. Definitely we are investing, growing. We have a lot of investment in R&D. We have a lot of customers. It's the We have a lot of customers in Africa, in East Africa, in West Africa, in Lusophone Africa, in Southern Africa, and obviously globally. So many multinationals that are present also in Ghana runs an SAP. And through the 4 messages, I will also try to demystify that SAP is not only for the big companies. We have very good customers that runs on a very small operations, and we go from that. So I'll please ask for the next slide to move on. There you go. So, 4 messages. First, we have a mission. The corporate social responsibility is part of our mission, is make people's lives better. And we've been doing quite a few initiatives in Ghana, and specifically, which is what matters today, including, for instance, the Africa Code Week, where in 17 we train 150,000 people, kids, and so forth. So if the team on the back will please jump for the first video, that will be great. One of the solutions that our partners, the event, and partners of SAP and partners of CEO Summit, Olam, presented yesterday is actually based on a solution that started in Ghana with the She-Nuts. So the next video is actually, again, to focus on the industries of SAP. SAP supports. SAP supports 25 industries with very specific business processes. So if you think about utility, if you think about oil and gas, we would expect that. But we also do agribusiness. We also do sports and entertainment from NFLs, etc. So it's really rich into specific business process for your industry. And obviously you have also the corporate business like finance, HR, etc. But I would like then to bring an example of the depth of SAP on an industry-specific business processes for the next short video. 4 messages in 4 short videos. The next one is what I mentioned, demystify SAP is only for the big guys. No, it's not. We have actually 3 lines of products that are relevant from the very small business to very large business. One of the solutions is the Business One, which our partners can implement in Ghana, obviously. We also have Business by Design, which our partners can also implement. And we also have S4HANA. So, but the reality is, the short video I'm going to show next is SAP by Design. It's, we would say, from ideation that I need an ERP system to get live with that ERP system, probably about 6 months to get it done. So it's not 6 months to get done the project. The project can be done in about 8 to 16 weeks. But probably also the decision making can also be done on 8 to 16 weeks. So it's really something, it's like, I would say, snap in a business application in your business. So the next video, please, can just start. Thank you. All right, so this is a cloud-based solution, so it's really no need for the infrastructure, etc. So I think it's, that was my 3rd message. My final message is decisions making from what if this event comes, what's the impact on my business, what's the impact on my investments, etc. So in anticipation, you can also see this live on the showroom behind, but let's go for the last video, please. Thank you. So, thank you. With this, I will say that I will also declare open the SAP Innovation Day, which is going to run for the next part of the session. I would also like to highlight the presence of Persol and Multisoft Solutions, our partners, local partners in Ghana. We have, as you saw in the first slide, we have 18,000 partners, but local partners in Ghana, we have Persol and Multisoft, which definitely can address a lot of the questions on a daily basis as well. We are also present, so, but definitely my invite for you all is step up at our booth behind. We have the digital boardroom. You can navigate a bit through any questions you might have. We have a team of about 10 colleagues of mine here, so it's welcome. And I'll just bring my colleague Ebukun to present you the agenda for the next time. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ebukun Olufo, and I work with the SAP West Africa team. We don't have the agenda in the booklet, so I thought it was important for us to run through and know what to expect over the course of the day. So we keep hearing things about the intelligent enterprise, digital transformation, all those sort of technology type of buzzwords. But we at SAP are trying to demystify these buzzwords and bring it real life and show you how these buzzwords would impact your business and how your business can truly become an intelligent enterprise. So I would have 3 of my colleagues covering different parts across HR, spend management, and also making decisions through analytical insights with the digital boardroom come on stage. Like Pedro said, we have one of our partners that implements our SAP solutions who would also come on stage to give you insight on maybe some of the projects they've done and how they've been able to achieve this locally in the Ghanaian market. That would come after lunch because we're running short on time. And also, why should you listen to us? Everybody wants to sell a product, right? So for you to not take our word and listen to other people, we also have 3 Ghanaian customers from Yahoo Medical, from Toyota, and from GNPC, who will be telling us about their journey with SAP and how SAP has really been able to transform their business in their various industries. And finally, we'd have an Innovation Day tour, giving us sort of an overview of the things you can see at our site and what to expect. So I'd call on Cyril, Shifiwa, and James to come and get us open on the intelligent enterprise. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shifiwa. I'm with SAP, currently based in Johannesburg. I'm an HR specialist, and I look after HR solutions, and I work a lot with customers and partners across Africa to digitize HR. And I thought, if we have got 10 minutes to talk about HR, what's the best topic to talk about HR on, except asking what HR is in the digital age. If you think in the world of technology, how technology has impacted and changed how we do things, how we access information, how we use that information. And when you see how technology has changed how we do things, HR has stopped being human resources. It has become a human revolution. And we'll talk about this and see how SAP can help you to change how your HR adds value. So we know that most businesses, if we can summarize after 4 things, sustainable business growth, whether it's getting into new markets, getting into new geographies, finding new business models. When we look at the culture of learning and innovation, there's a culture of compliance in there that we need to introduce in every single business across the whole economy. The customer experience, which actually comes from the employee experience. When our employees are empowered to make decisions, they also make decisions to shorten the time within which they can get back to our customers and address our customer needs. Then we also look at, every business needs to grow. We need to show that we are productive as a business, but on the other hand, to be able to contribute to return on investment, we also need to reduce costs. If you think about these 4 things, and you think about how are best run companies coping as far as HR is concerned. So what we did as SAP, we spent some time with IDC, an independent analyst, and we said to them, can you please go and research in the market small to medium-sized companies that employ about 100 to 1,000 employees, and come and tell us the role of HR in these best run companies. So IDC did that, spoke to about 365 HR executives with decision-making powers, pretty much across all levels in the organizations. And I only have one slide here that summarizes what the outcome was. If you want more on this research, you can come to our booth. We have got the information there, and we'll share the outcome with you. But what IDC did is they came and they categorized HR or best run companies in 4 categories. There were laggards, survivors, strivers, together with best run. But when we compare companies that are laggards as far as HR in best run companies, and when we compare those with the best run companies, there's a couple of themes that begin to come out. what HR is doing in best-run companies compared to what they are doing in laggard companies. So if you think about the whole area of employee brand, if you were to ask yourself a question, how did you choose the phone that you are using today? In most cases, you are attracted to that phone by the brand. Behind the brand, there's a service that sits there, there's innovation that sits there. When you commit into a phone for 12 months, for 24 months, you can sort of predict the changes that are coming and the improvements that you want in that telephone. And this is what HR needs to begin to do, in this age of digital age, where HR needs to be able to build the employment brand, the employee brand, to attract the talent that we need as an organization. If we want to be able to go into new markets, new geographies, new business models, we need new skills. The other area is all around improving or controlling the turnover, the employee turnover. The challenging part with employee turnover is that there are employees that we need to counsel out of the organization, and there are employees that we need to retain in the organization. The best way to be able to distinguish between those two, we had in the previous panel here, that it all comes down to performance management, the visibility and the access that we have as business leaders to be able to know who are the best performing employees in our organization. Where did they come from? When did they join? Are there specific managers in our organization that are multipliers of other managers or that are multipliers of leaders? And how do we ensure that we multiply those managers or we get them into positions of responsibility? Now, the outcome of this analysis here also showed that it is important for companies to digitize HR as much as possible. If we have digitized our lives, how we communicate, how we bank, if pretty much everything can happen in our pocket now, why can't HR happen in the pocket? And this is where we come in as SAP. SAP HR, our solution is called SAP SuccessFactors. It's a robust solution. Currently, we have got just under 7,000 customers across the whole world, 125 million users globally, even here in Ghana. We have got customers that will be talking about their journeys later on today. Nyahu Hospital is one of them. GNPC is one of them. So this number here, the 125 million that we see here, it includes some of your colleagues here in Ghana. So the solution is here in Ghana, the 125 robust, available solution in there. If you look at how stable the solution is, how secure the solution is, currently today, we run 790 million transactions in that application. So when you move on to SAP SuccessFactors, you are moving on to a stable application. What does the solution look like? In a nutshell, it's a full suite of HR solutions. If you look at the first part that talks about recruiting and onboarding, and we think about where we are as different businesses, sometimes we recruit employees right, but we don't onboard them correctly in our organization. The difference between proper onboarding and improper onboarding is the fact that the time to productivity, that's where the challenge is going to be. If it takes us long to onboard employees, it means that it will take them long to be productive. So we need to ensure that we close the loop as far as attracting and onboarding employees is concerned. The whole spectrum of talent management from beginning to end, infusing into that learning and development. And then we also have a solution on well-being and inclusion. Well-being has become big in today's world. Most of us sitting in here have got some piece of technology on our armbands, in our phones, that track how we are doing in terms of steps, in terms of wellness. And we can harness that data, combine it with your HR data, and be able to produce programs that are suitable for your employees. We have a solution around total workforce management. If you think of the gig economy today, and you think of how many employees that you have today are part of your full-time equivalent and how many of those are part of your contracting workforce, we have got a solution that you can use to help to manage any type of employee. At the end of the day, we need to get them to contribute into the business. The area around payroll and compensation is also covered in there. The amazing thing with the solution is that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and you sort of choose your own adventure. So if we look at the areas around talent management. If your biggest need as a business is performance management, is to be able to surface the best performers in your organization and use them to multiply other performers, you need to start your journey there. If you have got a solution on payroll, let's say, that's already robust and is working, and you just need to put on top of that a learning solution, you can start your journey where you have got the best need. So it's not a matter of rip and replace. We also want to help you to protect the investments that you have. So if you look at how you can consume the solution as well, it means that even from the number of employees, you can come and get a limited number of employees on the application based on your need and based on your business case as well. So this means that SAP is not only for big companies. You know, we have got small companies already using SAP SuccessFactors. So this is what the solution does from end to end. I want to give you a bit of what the solution looks like. What you are looking at here behind you, this is what we call our landing page. So when I get to this page as a user, whether I'm on my desktop, whether I'm on my tablet, whether I'm on my mobile device, whether it's Android, it's iOS, we have got native apps. The solution guides me to the important things that need to take place. So it pushes to me the same way that I get notifications for my WhatsApp and my Facebook and my LinkedIn. If you look on top here, right on top, I've got my to-do items. So the solution is guiding me to say, what are the important HR activities that you need to carry out as a manager to ensure that the HR value chain is completed? And I can come and set this up based on the workforce that I've got. If I need to give them more information or a little bit of information, this is very flexible and is very configurable. Beyond the landing page, this is what the org chart looks like. This is available on mobile as well. This is an interactive org chart. If you check next to Maya's picture, I've got a biz card with contact details. We can decide what information we need here based on the decisions that we want to make based on the org chart. On the next slide, you will see on the top right corner that we have also embedded analytics in here. So in any part of the application, you can come and run reports. When I'm on the org chart, questions that I might want to answer, is what is my staff breakdown between males and females? I can come and pull through that report in here without navigating away or without calling somebody for help. The next slide that we are going to look at is about performance. We had a lot about performance management in the previous panel when we were talking about transforming organizations. This helps us in our day-to-day the same way that we can come and set up multiple WhatsApp groups. I can come over here with my employees in my bi-weekly check-ins, whether it's at a post area, whether we have got formal meetings. We can come and document these discussions as they take place, and we roll this up into performance management so that at the end of the performance cycle, we can come and determine who are the performers, who are the non-performers, and how do we enable the non-performers to become performers, except if we need to cancel them out of the organization. So what we are seeing here is that from one application, you are able to pull through data from the org chart, be able to determine what the employee's position is, what their role is, and what are the critical KPIs that you should be tracking against that employee or that position. After we do performance management, we also need to do planning to make sure that there's business continuity. The example that we are looking at over here is succession planning. We'll start off with Maya Cooper on your left-hand side. She holds the role of the VP of Operations. Her role needs to have a proper successor in case she moves to a different role. And what we have got here is a linear chart to ensure that once we are planning that one role is properly planned for, we don't create havoc in another part of the business. So we can see here from the lineage that every single possible successor to any of the key roles, they are ready to take over now should any of the employees move into a different role. What happens over here is that we ensure that there's business continuity going forward. It's not only transactional data that we offer in SAP SuccessFactors. There's also analytics data. So what we are doing now is we are lifting off HR data from a transactional perspective. We are beginning to get into, from a strategic perspective, what is the impact that HR has in the business. Every training initiative that we manage in SAP SuccessFactors, we can tie it back and go and calculate the return on investment or the business impact. We do that in simple ways. One of the things that we do is we can come and source your sales data, and we can come and combine your sales data together with your training data, and we run reports like, the salespeople that you have, the ones who are performing well, are there certain things that they are doing in the business that sets them apart? Do they have a particular mentor? Are they part of particular collaboration groups? Are they attending similar types of training? In terms of their development, do they have similar or the same KPIs? And we can lift off this data from training together with data from sales and be able to say to you, what are the training initiatives that have got the highest impact in your business? So what we have done in here is we have taken HR data, which normally would lie somewhere in a cabinet, put it in your hands, in your pocket, and you are able to run these reports as and when you need the reports. The reports here, you can come and drill down on the reports. This is the example that I was referring to here, where you can combine data, whether you want bar graphs, you want pie charts, or you want heat maps. And there's also drill down available here, where you can actually go down and be able to determine who are the best sales managers and what are they doing to ensure that they always hit their targets. So what we are looking at here is when we begin to combine HR and non-HR data to ask questions like, what is our operating profit per employee? What are our expenses per employee? We can run these reports. At the end of the day is to ensure that when we do budgeting for subsequent years, we know that the employees who have got the highest impact in terms of our profit, we need to apportion or assign enough training budget for those employees. So when we speak about a human revolution, what we actually want you to be able to do is to take your HR information, put it in your business leaders on a daily basis, and enable them to make business decisions based on HR data or combining HR data with non-HR data. We're talking mainly about the system now, but we also offer services at SAP. Services where we can help you to assess and evaluate where best to start your HR transformation journey. When it comes to implementation, you will hear from our partners, Persol, and customers that are already using SAP here in your market. When it comes to optimizing your business, we've got best practices where we can guide you based on your industry, based on your size of your organization. We can help you benchmark against your fellows within the African continent or across the whole globe. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Cyril to talk about intelligent procurement.
Good afternoon, everyone. At least I feel a bit tall. I suppose I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Cyril. I'm from South Africa, and I look after procurement, and procurement for all types of procurement, being services, being contingent labor, being any type of third-party spend. And the topic that I'm going to be going into is around intelligent spend management. You may say, what is it? Intelligent spend management. What is spend management? And the role around spend management, basically, it's defining the spend management and then saying, what is total spend management? Every organization, if you look at the conference that we're having now, for it to be a success, at some point there has been spend going out. How do we manage that spend? How do we make sure that we're able to view that spend, view the customers, and view the suppliers that we're dealing with for that spend? Then we're going to go into the SAP journey, and I'm picking this up so that you say, guys, you're talking about this. Are you doing this yourselves? And I'm using us as an example to say, we come from a certain background. And based on where we were, we looked at the spend that we go through and say, how do we transform ourselves? And we went through this journey, and this is the same journey that we're proposing to you. Any organization, basically, regardless of who you are, you buy stuff, You do stuff or make stuff, and then you sell. Even if it's financial services, we sell something. It's a product. We have internal resources that make that, but we buy services from somewhere else. And that is a value chain. When we start talking about an intelligent value chain, is managing this beginning to end. And what we're going to talk about here is basically defining what intelligent spend management is about through this video. If we can get sound on it. Okay, so there's no sound on this, but basically on this video, what it's going through, it's basically talking about within the organization, there is spend going on all the time. Be it goods and services that we buy, that we define, that we know about, services that we render, getting from any other supplier that's out there that we don't know about, that we need to find out. And at the end of the day, we need to account for that spend. We then talk about what is the best way of doing that. Do we go into one mode where we say, let's control everything, become control freaks in such a way that no user can go out and buy anything without us knowing every little detail about it. We approve every little thing. Or we go to the other side where we say, anything goes, you can go onto Amazon, you can go and order whatever you want. Or we find a balance in the middle in such a way that users feel like they've got the ability to do what they want to do, but there are controls. So we now start talking about self-service, but with policies embedded within. And at the end, what we do is take what has been done and say, how do we improve going forward? That's when you start talking about understanding your spend and understanding intelligent spending. On the left, what you're looking at, these are the different types of things that we buy. These are the different commodities that we buy. We now need to go and say, how do we buy those? And having done that, we say, what policies do we need to put in? When we have put policies, we then give it to the users and say, you can use it. But we make sure that we have best practice processes embedded in that. When we have done that, later on, we unify the spend and have a view of that. Okay. Now, our journey as SAP, we had to sit back and say, if we are going to do that, what are the principles that we're going to follow? What were the lessons that we learned and what were the benefits? And for me, the critical one is around the principles. If you are an organization, what are those things that you want to push out into the organization? One, around customer centricity. These are the people that we are serving. Around savings. And if you are going to do this, regardless of the size of the organization, these are some of the policies and principles that you need to put down and say, when we go into these processes, we are going to follow the same these principles to make sure that we achieve what we want to achieve. Having done that, we then said, what are the best practice processes that we're going to use? These are the solutions, SAP solutions, and on the side, we have these solutions. We can show them to you. These were the solutions that we decided we were going to use for different kinds of spend. And finally, we then say, what were the lessons learned? And some of the lessons basically were around, if you're going to do this, stick to the process that you're going to do. Make sure that you have sponsorship within the organization. And benefits that were accrued, you can see, and this for me talks to any size of the organization. If you look at the spend that you have right now and you say, if we were to move back and say, let's put it through a process in which we are negotiating with the suppliers and making sure that users are using what we negotiated for. How much savings can you get out of that? And what can you do with those savings? These were the savings and benefits that SAP accrued, and I'm sure if you do that for all these organizations that are represented here, there will be savings that are there. This is a rushed presentation, but I think we have a stand on the other side when we can spend time and go through this process with you. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Wainaina to go through the next one.
Thank you, Cyril. So my name is James Wanaina. I'll be handling and explaining how the digital boardroom helps you as you make your decisions. As I do that, allow me to suggest to you that decisions, and it's good that your decision makers here, are all based on our points of view. Now, different points of view are good as long as you're looking at everything and looking at our organization from the same lens. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is a view of a box from a bird's eye view, a street level view, and a worm's eye view. All these views are good as long as they enrich our decisions. But decisions become dangerous if you look at them this way. This is a famous picture, I'm sure you've seen it before, where we have a group of blindfolded people touching an elephant. And they all have a very, very dangerous view of the elephant. One thinks it's a wall, the other thinks it's a tree, the other thinks it's a rope, a fan, a spear. Now, if we're running our organizations blindfolded, then we're bound to make decisions that are not correct. But then, this is where, as SAP, we found the opportunity to help you and work with you to unify your view as you run your organization. And what you're looking at is a man with a beautiful view. I wish I was him. But I also have a good view here. If you want to have my view, you must be standing from where I'm standing from. If I have to look and see the view this man is having, I have to stand on the rock he's standing on. What does this relate and how does it relate to our organization? We've got to establish a common standpoint so that we can make decisions based on a common viewpoint. And that's entirely what we do with our SAP Digital Boardroom and our data platforms. We help you unify your data, pull in all the data from any source that you would be having it, arrange it in a way that would be able to be understood and presented through the Digital Boardroom, which we are glad to show you after this at the back, and you can interact with this. Now, just a bit detail on what is really this digital boardroom. It runs on what is called an SAP Analytics Cloud, and it has three key features. The first one, it is a business intelligence solution that does all your analytics. The second one is that it helps you with enterprise planning. This gives you a unique perspective because you're able to do your corporate plans, your workforce planning, your capital or revenue planning, and then because within the same solution you're able to do your analytics, then you will be able to look at how are we performing against how we planned to perform. And finally, it does augmented analytics, and that's bringing together machine learning and predictive capabilities. This means that you're able to plan, analyze your current performance, and also focus or predict where you might end up. So with these three key features, we feel that it is a really good tool for every decision maker. The good thing is we've also gone ahead and built business content, so you won't have to start from scratch. The solution already has analytics for line of business finance, for HR, through different industries, from banking, public sector, you can name it, oil and gas. We've already built a lot of content for you so you can quickly pick it up and start analyzing with very little implementation effort. Okay? Okay, so at this point, I'll welcome you to our stand, and all I'll be telling you is some things that we do as SAP. We use the solution ourselves. Our leadership uses our solution to analyze how we're performing. With about 100,000 employees, we have to be data-driven. So this is an example of a dashboard that our leadership uses to analyze our potential sales. We have different kinds of dashboards, but it's good. And I was glad that in the morning we were discussing about governance because we can also help you understand where you are when it comes to governance and compliance. So from risk analysis to analyzing, are we complying to the regulations that we are supposed to be complying with, we're able to help you with that. And because we also have solutions that improve your corporate governance, then we are able to capture the data that is relevant for you to analyze when it comes to corporate governance. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Okay, so very quickly before we head out for lunch, it's my pleasure to introduce the Managing Director of one of our partners, Persol Systems, to give you a view of how you can achieve success with local expertise here in Ghana for your SAP projects. A round of applause, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for making it here. I'm going to be very quick. I will just dive into our app, our presentation. We're Persol. We're the largest SAP partner here in Ghana. And so you see here, we've been in business for 24 years. We're a software development company, a systems integration house, an IT consulting firm. So that's who we are. We're authorized to deliver SAP enterprise applications, which means basically the S/4HANA, which is the largest system, SAP Business One for the SMEs, and SAP SuccessFactors that you heard about, and SAP Analytics. And it's good that we have the Chief Executive of the State Enterprises Commission here, because he's a perfect candidate for the SAP Digital Boardroom. Because from his office, he should be able to monitor what's going on in the other enterprises, state enterprises, and get feedback on their performance so that he can direct and assist them on what to do. We were also hoping, and I think yesterday the Vice President of this country managed to take a look at the digital boardroom, because we're hoping that with all the digital initiatives that are being implemented, he can get to sit in the Flagstaff House or the Jubilee House and be able to get to monitor and see the performance of the various ministries. So that's a very exciting thing. The next slide. So we are recognized expertise in SAP SuccessFactors. And that basically means that we have certified consultants that have been trained specifically for SAP SuccessFactors, and then there's no other company like ours in this country that has that capability. And what that means is that we're not just, SAP takes us through a real drill. Okay, so our consultants who deliver this solution, they are not just consultants who woke up last night and said they could implement SAP SuccessFactors. You have to go through a rigorous training program. You have to get certified. You take an exam, and it's a tough process. But that ensures that we can deliver a certain quality. So that is how come the companies such as GMPC have implemented SuccessFactors, the likes of Toyota Ghana, the likes of Nyaho Clinics or the hospital group. So we've got 15 plus certified consultants across all the SAP solutions. And so we have the largest number of SAP consultants in this space. We've done a lot of SAP implementations. We've got a lot of successful live projects, the likes of small SAP implementations at the SME level, the medium enterprise, and also at the large enterprise. So the likes, we've got small companies that use SAP, and so don't believe the hype about SAP being a very expensive solution. There is a solution that will most likely meet every single need. And across about 25 or 26 verticals, SAP's got a solution for almost every single business that you could find yourself in. We've got experience in delivering these projects for private and public sector organizations. We've done very well in the private sector space, but we've done also extremely well in the public sector space. So when we're talking about public sector, we've implemented at the National Petroleum Authority, National Communications, GMPC, Minerals Commission, and so on. But then in the private sector, there are a lot more of such accounts. And so we're very excited about that as well. So how do we deliver value? We deliver value because we're implementing an SAP delivery methodology where you don't just come into your place. SAP, like its German roots, has structure and has order, and we follow that order. We've got embedded customer engagement, and so what happens basically is that we have someone from Persol come into your organization almost like he's your ally, and he's checking to see whether our consultants are delivering value in the way that SAP expects us to deliver value. So he's your check. He's almost your insurance to make sure that our consultants are delivering value. So what's the future for us? Two things. We've done very well in the petroleum sector. MPA, I told you, MPA runs SAP. It's a small SAP solution. The great thing about it is that because SAP allows us to be able to customize the solution. So at MPA, we've built a lot of other solutions around the SAP Enterprise solution. So for example, we've got things like the BDCs. We have an online platform, BDCs, oil marketing companies, they trade on that platform, all through to the depots, the petroleum marking guys, the BRV guys, they're all on this system. But what happens is the integration, the back-end integration. So for example, those of you in the petroleum downstream sector, you know about the UPPF, the Unified Price Petroleum Fund. There are times that the government needs to give you a check, and the times that you need to give government a check. All of this process is automated, so SAP generates an invoice. If it's a customer, if it's a payables invoice, that's generated from the system as well. And for example, you know, through our system, we get to send SAP, MPA sends people to the field to go and capture requirements. So for example, they are going to outlets and they're checking if the outlets meet the standards. It's called the inspection monitoring place. Now when, let's say, an outlet that fails the standards and there's a penalty. In the past, it used to be that they write it in a book and they come and then three weeks later, they invoice and so on. Right now, they go with a tablet and if the outlet has failed a particular thing and there's a penalty, the penalty actually gets into our system and it automatically generates an invoice and it is sent via email to the customer. So we shortened the life cycle. Something that used to take about 4 weeks to generate, it was taking about 3 days, 4 days. And that significantly increased the revenues for MPA. That is sort of what we do on the petroleum downstream sector. And this is my last slide, rural sourcing management. And sorry that we sent our stuff here and the wordings all got a little messed up. But what is rural sourcing management? You saw a slide not too long ago. You saw a video of that. Essentially, what SAP has done is to have a solution that allows field agents to capture farm information. Now, that farm information comes onto a cloud platform, and it allows other people to be able to integrate onto this cloud platform. So for example, banks now have access to how a farmer is doing and the farm productivity. Input providers like those who are selling fertilizers and so on now have access to how well a farmer is doing. The certification company. So for example, we will be integrating with Ghana Grains Council so that we can tell you whether a particular maize that you're buying or you're interested in is certified and so on. All of this is capable, all of this is possible because of the SAP Rural Sourcing Management. Now, if I tell you that we've done well, we're comfortable with the petroleum downstream sector money. It's been good. But I can tell you that rural sourcing management is where we're really passionate about. We're passionate because it finally gives us a chance to be able to solve a big problem. And you will find, maybe when you go back into after lunch, if you get an opportunity, please check out the stands. You will see the solutions that we're talking about. It dramatically shifts the paradigm of what we have been dealing with in agriculture. We need to be able to empower our farmers to be able to deliver good value. So yes, we've made money on the downstream sector. We've made money on the midstream. We provide SAP solutions to companies in the midstream section. We provide SAP solutions to the likes of GMPC and ACA and so on. But we are more passionate about this because this is what is going to transform this country, and we really want you to take a look at that because it's going to be dramatic, it's going to be amazing. Next year, hopefully, when we come in here, we should be looking at a testimony of how SAP Rural Sourcing Management has transformed Ghana's agricultural landscape. Thank you very much, and you know what? I am going to just call in my chaps. You know, you need to hear the references quickly of the people who've done this and have done it successfully. I would call up to the stage Godfred Ofori Som, he's my own guy, GMPC IT, to come up stage. And we have our colleagues from Toyota to also come up stage. Nana Pokua, sorry, Peter Asante. Peter Asante, where are you? From Toyota. And then from Nyaho Medical, Nana Pokua Apafram. Please, come up stage. Now, I'm not the one, I'm not good at talking in these spaces, so please have a seat. We will call also our SAP colleague here, Cesar, to come up stage. And then John, where are you? Oh, okay. Please come up stage. Come up stage. So can I hand this over to you then? Okay. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're really excited to have you here and also have our customers here. We're going to make this very short so that we can go for lunch. We would also need somebody to come and help us take out this table because I will sit down with the guests. Can somebody come? Juliet? Okay, so we're going to run this very quickly. We also expect you to ask questions where you can. These are our customers in Ghana. These are customers who have already implemented SAP. We're going to ask them a few questions. We'll make it as interactive as possible. If you have any questions, it will also help us to be able to shape their answers and to also address any gray areas that you might have. If there are questions you also want to ask SAP, or if you have perceptions as well, we would also like to entertain those questions. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have you here. I think we'll just go into the nitty-gritty of it. Where we're going to start is we want to know, just introduce yourself once more and tell us what your organization does and also why you decided to do SAP. So I will start with you, Mr. Godfred, and we'll take it.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Godfred Oforisom, head of IT in GMPC. GMPC is mandated to explore, develop, and dispose oil. And so basically we are in the oil sector, and then we're also a corporate organization. And we've been using SAP to help us move from just a national oil company to an international independent provider. So we just wanted the best practice, so we're using, and I'm just here to share the success story.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peter, you can take the floor.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Peter Asante, and I'm the HR and Admin Manager for Toyota Ghana Company Limited. Toyota is an automobile dealer, and in Ghana, Toyota Ghana Company Limited is the sole authorized agent of Toyota Motor Corporation in Japan. So we are the sole authorized dealers of TMC in Ghana. Basically, we sell cars, we sell Hino trucks, which is also an affiliate of Toyota, and then we also sell spare parts and continue with the servicing and the after-sales care of the vehicles. Well, our journey with the SAP began not too long ago. We are still in the process, but I should say that it's been exciting, and especially the consultants that we're working with are marvelous. They make sure they follow up and ensure that whatever they're doing with us is going to get us to where we want to go. It's been a marvelous journey, and maybe I'll have time to talk more about that.
Thank you very much. I'm not quite sure whether the mics are working.
Yeah, it's working.
It's on.
It's working, yes. Right. You can use the one beside you.
So Just to introduce myself, so Nana Pokwa Aprafam, I'm the HR director for Nyaho Medical Center. I had my CEO on earlier on, who shared the fact that we are essentially the premier private group practice healthcare facility here in Ghana. He also shared that we have been operating as of next year for almost 50 years, and so we have a real legacy in terms of healthcare provision in Ghana. We have an ambitious vision, and that is to be Africa's most trusted name in healthcare, with a unique mission to really transform the lives of our patients by surpassing their expectations and really inspiring hope in a better Africa. We operate the group practice, providing 24 hours, 7 days a week, access to more than 50 specialists, diagnostic centers, pharmacy, as well as an emergency department with ambulance services. So that's who we are. And for us, our SAP journey started last year. I think it was about a year ago. And we implemented the success factor on the 1st of November, in fact. So we are 6 months into really leveraging the benefits of success factor as a human capital management system for our center.
Thank you very much, Nana. So I will go on to you, Peter. This question is for you. What business challenges were you trying to solve, and why did you decide to go with SAP?
Well, we have been over the years into a manual management of our HR systems, and that's the management of our human capital has been mainly manual. I mean, if you've been through the process of having to call for files, box files, flat files, clip files of all kinds, and sometimes it takes hours and the files haven't gotten to you. Well, we came to realize that as the world is getting digitized more and more every day, we had to digitize our processes as well. So it's all about moving from the complicated, very uncomfortable manual environment into the digitized world. We had choices of many proposers who came to us with proposals to go along the journey with us. But after we had carefully scanned all through, we decided to go with SAP because we saw that the packages that they had to offer us were just what we needed to solve our problems.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter. So I can assume that you're saying that SAP was a good fit for your roadmap or for your strategy as a business.
Yes, exactly so. In fact, during these initial stages, I sit back in my office and I'm confident that I have a complete oversight over the workforce running across the country. We have branches in Kumasi, we have branches in the mines, we have branches in Takwa, we have a branch in Tamale coming up. But now, when I sit behind my desk with the click of a button on my computer, I know that I have a complete control over the workforce that I work with. And that's over 560 people.
Thank you very much. The next question is, a round of applause, please. The next question I would ask is go to Godfred. You are probably the oldest SAP customer on the panel today. My question to you would be, what has been the impact of SAP to your organization?
Okay, so as he rightly said, I mean, things were manual, and then we didn't have also a standardized way of doing things. So SAP has helped us to standardize. We are an organization that transparency is very key to us. And before SAP, you have different views of things. If you go to finance to find out how much you spend, for instance, they'll give you how much they have dispersed. If you go to procurement, they'll tell you what the POs have gone out. And so depending on where you were asking your questions, probably will be giving different answers, which were all correct anyways. But then we needed to have things that everybody, a source where everybody goes and gets the same information. And so that's one of the key things. Transparency is very key in organization, and it's helped us in that sense. We also have become more efficient because things are integrated across. When you talk about success factor, it helps us in our performance reviews. People know where exactly people are, what the feedbacks are. I mean, so it's a whole lot. I mean, I don't talk much, so I can't say everything, but it's helped us tremendously in the way we do things.
Thank you very much. So the next question I wanted to ask you is, do you see in the past, between yesterday and today, there has been a lot of discussion around public sector companies, private sector organizations, where do they meet? How do you see yourself? Is it public sector or private sector? And when you talk about the benefits of technology to you, is it something that you believe can be achieved in the public sector if you think yourself as a public sector customer?
Yes, I mean, we're public sector. We want to be, we want to run as a private sector, but we are still a public sector. We can't run away from that. And so we need to ensure that, so that's why transparency is very key to us, for instance. I mean, we may not talk about sales and stuff like that, but being compliant, being transparent, being efficient in the way we do things, and it's key to our progression of being an independent oil producer. And so, yes, we are public sector, and we proud ourselves to be that. But at the same time, I think we are running on more of a private sector ideology. So.
Thank you very much. So, Nana, the next question I'll ask would go to you. You're somewhere in between in terms of your experience or using SAP. How long did the project take? What has been the lessons that you've learned during that time, engaging SAP, working with our partners locally, and why PESOL?
So our project took about 5 months in total, if I think about from our initial engagement with PESOL, the local SAP partner, to us going live. And I think...
Did you say 5 months?
5 months.
I want you to repeat it again.
5 months. It took 5 months, absolutely. And I think the next question was about lessons learned. And I think for me, one of the biggest lessons or takeout that we took out of that experience was in terms of the need for planning and the value of working with a partner that had the project management discipline behind the delivery of the project. For me, when I initially engaged PESOL, I made it clear that this was a strategic initiative in terms of implementing and automating our HR processes, and therefore our delivering on time was absolutely key. And so really working with a partner who understood the discipline of managing a project on time was a big takeout for me in terms of our experience.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peter, I know you had mentioned that since you deployed SAP, things have changed as to how you do business. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So my question to you would be, how, going forward, or the journey forward, what do you expect from this investment? How do you expect it to change the way you do things? And also, what was the input of senior management in this process in terms of decision making? How did you get to this point where you adopted the technology to move you into the digital age?
Well, the whole process has had tremendous support from management, from the managing director to the executive committee, or what we call the management committee of the company has actually given it a very solid backing, such that during the training processes, all management staff of all calibers and all category are present to make sure that they thoroughly understand what is going on. In fact, the commitment is total. We do not have a situation where anybody calls himself too big or deems himself too big to be part of SAP. Now, going forward, we are moving from a crop of highly discontented, dissatisfied staff with appraisal systems, with promotion systems, with the way we measure their contributions, into a workforce that is highly spirited, motivated, because we have passed them through the process of training. And if you get to see the participation level of each and every one of our workforce who is part of it, you can see that everybody is looking into the way forward with a lot of promise.
Thank you, Peter.
Right.
So finally, the question I'm going to ask now will be for the three of you, but we'll start with you, Godfred. Given what you have done with SAP in terms of your transformation journey or your digitization journey, what are the next steps? What will you say are the things you're looking forward to within your framework? I mean, I would assume that you have a roadmap, a plan. What will be your next steps?
Okay, so we started from the core ERP, and we added a few of our vertical lines, so like the UOM for oil management. But there are other, and we did SuccessFactors, Police Central, and performance. So we have a roadmap of adding compensation and talent management on the SuccessFactors, and then we also looking at doing business intelligence and process control for the audit guys to be able to audit the processes. So we have a plan to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Peter. Over to you. What's your next step in terms of, as an organization, what do you expect to do next in your transformation journey, working with SAP and working with PESOL?
We expect that the support and the commitment of PESOL will continue, right? We expect that the partnership will not end in this very early stages. I expect that I'll be able to rely on PESOL to go into levels whatever levels that will keep my workforce motivated and very happy to work.
Thank you very much. Nana? You have the last shot.
I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. I think for us, working with SAP through PESOL, and the choice was a deliberate choice because we needed to ensure that we partnered with somebody that could scale with us as we grew as an organization. And so in response to your question of what next, we kind of started off with Employee Central Resource Management. And clearly we're actually working with PESOL at the moment in terms of the performance management system, performance and goals. But I think just looking beyond what we're doing now, I think working with a partner like PESOL and SAP therefore allows us to look internally in terms of what other value can we create in terms of automating, and therefore look at opportunity to leverage that partnership. So, I mean, I see a bright future.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? We have less than 2 minutes to wrap up this exercise so that we can go for lunch. Apologies for keeping you once more, but I'm sure we'll wrap up in the next 2 minutes. Any questions from the audience? Okay, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate the time of everybody. A round of applause for our customers, please.